turn into a monster. Not the monster you were warned about as a child, the monster that finally stops negotiating with weakness. Somewhere inside you is a version of yourself that has never been allowed to exist. And tonight, that version is watching you decide whether to stay comfortable or finally build him. You think you know yourself. You don't. You know the version of yourself that wakes up late, delays the hard task, and calls it a rough week. That is not who you are. That is who you have practiced being. Every skipped workout, every abandoned goal, every promise you made to yourself and quietly broke, these were not random. They were training, and what you have been training, without realizing it, is the ability to give up smoothly. That is the wake-up call. You are not lazy by nature. You are skilled at retreating. And skill, once built, repeats itself automatically. Which is why quitting has started to feel so natural. But that is not the worst part. The worst part is that comfort has started to feel like peace. You call it self-care, you call it balance, you call it listening to your body. Sometimes that's true. Most of the time, it's a disguise. Comfort does not announce itself as danger. It arrives quietly, wrapped in convenience. A little more sleep, a little more scrolling, a little more waiting for the right mood. And slowly, without a single dramatic moment, your standards shrink to match your habits. This is the trap. Not failure. Failure is loud. And loud things get your attention. Comfort is silent. And silence is where identities are built without permission. Mrs. Lulamo. Think about how weakness is actually constructed. It is never one catastrophic decision. It is one skipped task, one broken promise, one unnecessary distraction, one more day of waiting for tomorrow, repeated until it becomes personality. You didn't wake up one morning and choose to be unfocused. You chose it in small pieces, 5 minutes at a time, until the pieces became the whole. And that is exactly how it must be undone. In small pieces, 5 minutes at a time. There is something deeper you need to understand here. Every one of those small surrenders felt harmless in the moment. That is what makes them dangerous. Nothing that destroys you slowly ever feels like an emergency while it's happening. This is where a different kind of mindset becomes useful. Not as a fantasy, not as an escape, but as a mirror. Think about the mentality behind a character who never treats his current strength as his final form. He does not celebrate a plateau. He studies it, then looks for the next one. That mentality has nothing to do with power levels or fictional battles. It has to do with refusing to accept your current ceiling as permanent. Most people hit a limit and start decorating it. They call it their personality, their limits, their nature. A stronger mindset calls it a temporary stop. Apply that to your actual life. Your current discipline is not your identity. Your current focus is not your identity. These are simply your results up to this point. And results can be retrained like anything else. Now ask yourself something harder. What have you been calling a personality trait that is really just an unpracticed skill? Growth requires resistance. This is not poetic language. It is mechanical truth. A muscle does not grow from comfort. It grows from controlled damage, followed by recovery. The same law governs your mind, your focus, and your discipline. So when the hard task appears and your body resists it, that resistance is not a sign to stop. It is the exact moment the transformation begins. The discomfort is not the obstacle blocking your growth. The discomfort is the mechanism producing it. This means training responsibly. Studying when you don't feel inspired. Doing the difficult work before checking your phone. Delaying gratification long enough to let effort compound. None of this is glamorous. And that is precisely why so few people commit to it. Here is where everything changes. The people who actually transform are not the ones with the most motivation. They are the ones who built a habit of acting without waiting for motivation to show up first. Talk about what happens when nobody is watching. No audience, no likes, no applause, no one checking whether you did the work. This is where your real identity is decided. Because performance for an audience is easy, but discipline in silence is not. Anyone can push hard when people are watching, filming, cheering. The real question is what you do at 5 in the morning when the only witness is you. What you choose in that silence is the truest version of who you are. You think the problem is motivation. It isn't. Motivation was never designed to be consistent. It was designed to spark you once and then disappear. What replaces it, in every person who actually changes, is a decision made once and defended daily. Now let's talk about failure, because you have been taught to fear the wrong thing. Failure is not proof that you are incapable. Failure is information, nothing more, nothing less. It tells you exactly where your current method breaks down. The weaker version of you treats failure as a verdict. The stronger version treats it as a diagnostic report. Ask what it revealed. Ask what it exposed about your preparation, your focus, or your excuses. Then adjust and continue. Because emotional collapse over failure changes nothing about the outcome. The strongest people you admire were not strangers to failing. They simply refused to let failure write the final sentence. They treated it as a paragraph in a much longer story they were still writing. Now let's talk about the negotiations. I will start tomorrow. I will do it later. Just 5 more minutes. You have said these sentences to yourself hundreds of times. Each one felt small in the moment. None of them felt like betrayal. But every single one taught your mind that your word can be broken without consequence. And once your mind learns that your promises are optional, it stops taking any of your goals seriously. Stop negotiating, not because discipline is about being harsh with yourself, but because negotiation itself is the disease, not the symptom. The moment you start bargaining with your own commitments, you have already told your brain that the goal was never truly important. So what does becoming a monster actually mean? Not cruelty, not violence, not arrogance, not losing your humanity. It means becoming someone so disciplined, so consistent, and so difficult to break that your old excuses no longer have anywhere left to hide. It means your calm becomes intimidating because it's earned. It means your consistency becomes rare because almost nobody else has it. It means people start noticing that you no longer explain yourself. You simply show up, again and again, regardless of mood. Now imagine yourself exactly 1 year from today. Same excuses, same distractions, same unfinished goals sitting in the same folder they've been sitting in for years. Or a completely different person, built quietly, through choices nobody applauded. That contrast is not hypothetical. It is being decided right now, in this exact moment. By whether you close this video and return to comfort, or actually apply what you just heard. Nobody is coming to rescue your future. No sudden circumstance will hand you discipline. No perfect morning will arrive and fix years of avoidance in a single instant. You will have to build it yourself, in the same ordinary hours you have been wasting. Stop waiting. Get up. Train your focus like a muscle. Face the task you've been avoiding. Become someone your future depends on, not someone hoping the future goes easy on him. Your strongest version is not something you discover, it is something you build. And you build it through the choices nobody sees, the mornings nobody applauds, and the promises you finally decide to keep. Understand what happens the moment you actually commit to this. The first few days will feel unnatural. Your mind will fight to return to the old pattern, because the old pattern was efficient, familiar, and safe. That resistance is not failure, it is proof that you are finally leaving territory you've occupied for years. Expect the discomfort to feel personal. It will whisper that you're not built for this, that other people have something you don't, that this version of you is temporary and will fade by next week. That whisper is not truth, it is simply the sound of an old identity refusing to be replaced without a fight. Let it fight, show up anyway. The goal was never to silence that voice permanently, because it rarely disappears completely. The goal is to keep moving while it talks, until its opinion no longer decides your actions. There will be days you slip, a missed session, a broken streak, a moment where comfort wins again. This does not erase the progress you've made. It only tests whether progress was ever real to begin with. The old you would have quit there and called it proof that change doesn't work. The next version simply returns the following day, without drama, without self-punishment, without needing an apology first. That return is the entire secret, not perfection, repetition. So look at the task in front of you right now, the one you've been avoiding while watching this. That task is where the transformation actually starts. Not in some future moment when conditions feel ideal. Turn into a monster, not the kind the world fears, the kind your excuses do,